Well, I'm so excited to be leaning into this subject matter today with you guys and talking about it unleashed, unfiltered in the space that we're moving within, because there's a lot of people awakening right now into their spiritual journey. They're questioning their life, they're questioning what they used to know, they're questioning who they really are. And it's starting to trickle through the dynamics, through the collective of energy. And for some of you who have been in my world a while, you will know and understand that my literal pulse in the world, or my energetic field in the world, is to help accelerate and activate your spiritual gifts. But a lot of the time, the people I'm working with and connected with, and like the typical clients coming into my field, are already in a space of an understanding of spirituality. So it's really easy for me to talk shop and to move through and to teach them certain dynamics of whatever it is they need to learn. And I don't get a lot of people that are right at the beginning phases of their spiritual awakening, because of the fact that I play over here in this other field, right? And it doesn't mean that I can't hold space for them or that I don't have the knowledge to serve them in, is that I'm playing in a different sandbox, let's say, and I can't even remember sometimes what it was like to open up and awaken. For most of my life, I have been awakened, although I didn't follow my intuition or follow that pull for a lot of years. I purposefully actually went against my intuition and went against the grain, which you can imagine is a like really amazing dynamic of energy. But also too, I've got a lot of crazy stories because of the fact that I purposefully didn't. And I obviously live in a world that I believe that we experience things and go through experiences on purpose to be able to shift and hold space within. So for me, I'm kind of like, well, maybe I just needed those experiences. But did I really, like really, did I really need to go through some of the stuff I went through if I just would have stepped in and listened? And that's what I really want to bring forth today, is if I were to look back at the beginning phases of my awared spiritual acceleration, or my awareness, when I remember it starting to happen, this level of ascension, which was definitely 14 years ago, for sure 14 years, because that was when I met my first spiritual mentor. But even the year before that, I was really in this space. I was working for a mentor at the time, 7 days a week, 18-hour days. That was my job, getting paid barely enough money to even live with on. Like, I don't even know how I even lived on the amount of money that I got paid to work for him, but that's a whole other adventure. But I remember, listening to Abraham Hicks, and I remember, listening to the law of attraction. This was the year that The Secret came out, and remembering that pulse and energy. Now, I always had a strong intuition, always. However, I didn't follow my intuition, but my friend knew that I did. And, I've told this story numerous times that when I first owned my ability to channel and to step into that, I was resistant on it. But there was always this pathway, this common denominator that kept coming back into my recollection to be able to honor and serve and step within that. I was the person you would call for advice, and you would call me and ask me questions. And I just thought that that was just being a friend, when in actuality, it was actually me channeling your higher self, your connection, your spiritual connection, and giving you the information that I was being directed to step into and tell you about, so you could move through onto your next phases or into your next aspect of life. And I do this a lot now, and I own my channeling. I do it in programs and master classes, one-to-one calls, specific Akashic record activations. Like, everything I do literally is channeled. How I create content, how I shift into things, like I hear it coming down my right side and I feel it and I own it and I step into that. But it wasn't always that way, guys. So if I really look back and first analyze when I first started awakening, and I call it the whisper. And you've heard me say this before. If you've been listening to the podcast for a little bit now, we're not that far into the podcast yet, but it feels like I've traveled lifetimes already speaking into this podcast and moving this energy through and what's coming down the pipe to serve you within. But if I remember correctly, like it's that whisper, right? I kept hearing this whisper. And every time I would step in to do something that wasn't aligned any longer, or never was aligned in the first place, but I consistently did it anyways, I kept hearing this peak kind of move through me, like this questioning of energy, like, is that really what you want to be doing? And I'd be like, what? Is someone talking to me? Right? Do you think that that's a good idea? And that voice would start to come up. And that would be the first recollection I have of that higher self, that spiritual source connection with God, whomever you choose to align yourself with, that I knew there was something else. Right. And then I'd walk into rooms and then I get this feeling kind of like, ooh, that person doesn't feel that, connected, or, oh, something's wrong here. Or the most amazing energies, like, wow, I feel like this person knows my soul and I just met them. Like, how did I, create this energy with them so quickly? We get it in twofold, and it starts to move through us. And then we start to get these like visions almost. Like for me, I'm really visual. So for some of you, you may not see it in your mind's eye, but you may hear it, you may feel it, you may, get these visions in your mind, or you may, like, the body can sense it, or I have a client that tastes energy, which is a really cool thing, right? So when she would walk into rooms, it would taste really bad or really good, or those people, and she can understand if you're lying to her through taste in her mouth, which I think is the coolest thing. But we have these little peaks of moments of this talent, this connection, these skills, like the remembering, this pulse, and you hear me talk about that a lot, is this pulse within us that keeps coming up. And we get these visions, if you're visual, of lives that we've lived, or the life we're meant to live. I beat to the drum of the saying, if it's in you, it's for you. Right. So if it's in us and we keep seeing it and we can feel it and we can taste it and we can move through it, and it's vividly coming to life, that is in us, which means it's our possibility. It's our possibility to move through. It's our possibility to be in availability with. So as we move through this, we hear the whisperings, right? We hear this nudging. We hear this small voice stepping into the space with us to help assist us in moving through. And it's that higher self connection. So a couple things to note: if you are brand new at spirituality, let's get into the grid of this. And I'm actually creating this podcast on purpose so that when I do come across people that are just opening, they can come and listen to this podcast and get nuggets and information. So the first one is, we are a soul in our physical form, and we have dropped into this earth for an experience. Okay. We came here for a reason. We didn't just, jump into this body to go like have a good time, although good times are warranted. And whenever we're feeling good, we are in alignment with our purpose and pathway on earth, right? But we jumped into this body to have an experience. And we have within us this imprint, this blueprint within us to lead us on this experience. But the challenge we come into play is that as we grow up and get conditioned as children, we are conditioned by what our parents think, our environment, what our grandmother wants to raise us by, what our teachers tell us, what the school system says, like all of this stuff. So our availability to connect within ourselves and hear the messages diminishes as we age. Now, if you have parents in your life that are open and awake, they should be, quote unquote, helping you keep that into alignment, helping you fuel that, bringing it out in you and moving it through. And now some people have older kids and they didn't realize this when they were, raising their kids. Now they have an awareness, and now they'll be different, let's say, with their grandkids as they move through life, right? And moving that through. But as we can stay connected to the purity of light, when we birth into this body, we can't speak, right? We come out as babies, and all of that connection that we remember so vividly, we can't even express it into words. But if you watch children and you watch them even as babies, their eyes will move in the room. Like they see the spirits, like they will communicate in certain ways. As kids grow older, they see different things, they feel different things, like they know when the energy is off. They cry around people that their energy is fucked up. And most of the time, some of these parents are trying to get their kid to give a hug to fucking grandpa, who is energetically is not aligned and vibrational, where the child is rebelling against that, telling you, grandpa's energy sucks. I do not want to be around grandpa's energy. Now, I get the whole dynamic of the adulthood and respecting your elders and all that stuff. But when we talk about spirituality, our soul is aligned in light. We want to be connected to light. And we have a bullshit meter in our field that tells us when someone's lying to us, when they're deceiving us, when they are not in pure love, light, and truth, when they've done shitty things to other people. We have a bullshit meter. And it doesn't mean that us as a soul don't go through our own phases of manipulation or our own dark nights of the soul or our own shadow actions that then we get to look back on and get into the purity of light within, which there's no judgment on that. We go through an experience, but we don't hold all this shadow in this space. Like, we're not out there. You're listening to this podcast, you most likely haven't done anything that could put you in jail, or you might have at a surface level, like a DUI, or maybe you smoked some drugs that were illegal at the time, or that kind of thing. But it's a different energy. Like, you're not in it because you killed somebody or because you stepped over a certain boundary to do something that is an imprint of shadow in the world. You get what I'm saying? So as we open and continue to keep opening, you're going to start to see distortions and feelings of distortions in life. And some of you have been living a really distorted life for a long time. So when you start to awaken, you're questioning everything. You are. And the more we awaken, meaning seeing truth in everything, feeling it in our body, starting to take action and finding a collective of people around us or aligning ourselves in our lanes, it gets easier to move through the shadow in our life. But it takes a lot of grit, guys, and it takes a lot of courage at the beginning to step in, because you've got to trust that what you're healing and feeling is actually your truth. And a lot of us have diminished our own light throughout the world, and we look to others for this information. We look to others to serve us in this. We look to others for all this other dynamics and shifting within us, right? Instead of within our own selves. So as we start to move through and open up, you know, that first pivotal dynamic and key that we're talking about here is that whisper. But next is understanding that we are here for a reason. And you've been given a skill set, or you've been given talents, or you've been given the availability to do something here on this earth that is going to serve this mission on earth. And I call it a mission because it really is. We drop in to do something here. We have a plan that we don't remember consciously that is there, but it's our plan to move through and step into. So as we start to move through this, the goal is to find out what fuels your heart right here in the center of you. What lights up your soul? What opens you up to joy and peace and more evolution here, right? And as we move through this, we get to expand in this. We get to trust it. So maybe it's like, that chocolate doesn't give me joy, but that chocolate gives me joy. And you're picking the joyful chocolate. And it can be that easy. And guys, it actually is that easy. And it shows up in everyday life all the time. Does that music align with my heart center? Can I actually watch the show on TV? Like, please do not ever give me any horror movies. I'm not going down that route, because I know, and I used to watch them when I was a kid, but I also had a lot of shadow in my energy when I was younger. I had to do a massive clearing when I started to do this awakening evolution in my spirituality to get rid of the shadow in my life, because the experience I chose at 18 months old, where I took on an energy entity into my field, and until I was 28, had been with me my whole life, dictating how I was meant to step into energy. And this is something that's happening rampantly right now in the world. There are so many entities in light fields right now blocking people from their illuminated light on purpose. It's like they all have missions to distort the light in the world. And it's so much more apparent. If you are feeling this and you know this is a truth for you, like I do clearing specifically for this, and how I can understand what you're going through is because I went through it myself, and I know it, and I authentically understand the dynamics. And like, I've been seeing people with spells and curses and black magic in their field over the last little while too, that we've got to cut the cords of all this, or else they cannot fully step into their light. But I watch this mechanism start to pulse through the world. We're starting to see more people awaken and awaken and awaken as we move through this. The next thing I want you to note is that you're not alone. Now, not even in a human form collective, you have a collective of people that are meant to serve your mission. So I do this as a joke when I explain spirit guides to people, and when I explain like contracts in connection with spirit guides. It's like, we're on the other side. Okay, you and I are chilling out, we're having a conversation, and you say to me, look, man, I'm gonna go onto Earth, I'm gonna go have this experience, and you see this shit show that I'm gonna go through here, I'm gonna need you to have my back. And we fist bump, and I go, dude, I got you. And now my job, this is a contract we make together, my job is to help serve you as a spirit guide. So my job is on the other side, helping you hear the messages, helping you see the billboard that answers all the questions that you have, if I can get you to fucking pay attention. Okay, my job is to move into your field, to help you move energy, to remind you that you're taken care of, to remind you that you're on a pathway. That's my job as a spirit guide. Now, I am obviously not a spirit guide right now. I am in physical form here in a human world, but a lot of the lives I've previously lived, and I wouldn't say they're lives per se, because you can only have lives here on Earth or in other dimensions. So, but I've been a spirit guide to many. That's why I have so much wisdom in this human form right now, because I've seen so many lives move through. I've seen so many lives transpire. I've seen so many lessons play out in other people's lives, that's how I have this information. I get asked all the time, how do you know this? How do you know this? And everyone's like, you're an old soul. I'm like, I'm technically not an old soul. So for those of you that don't know the difference, an old soul is a soul that's been to Earth multiple times and experienced a lot of lives on Earth. I actually am not an old soul by Earth's dynamic, but I have worked as a spirit guide for a lot of people. And my wisdom comes from seeing others. I very rarely incarnate in my soul group. I very rarely, only when the blueprint of the earth is off do I incarnate. So I'm here in a big ass mission on this earth right now, is to restabilize the blueprint. Not just me, there's a collective of us that never incarnate. We're usually spirit guides on the other side. Atlantis, I was incarnated. When Lemuria fell, I was incarnated. I guarantee you during the Holocaust, I was probably here as well. My last life, I was a prostitute. Good times. But the mechanism of shifting of light, and you'd be like, why did you come in the last time? And I'm like, there was a revolution happening through the collective of energy back in the 70s, that the support of my soul, whether I was all fucked up or not, needed to come forth and happen inside of this space. And I've got glimpses of other lives. I've also been a tiger. And so just so you're aware, from the spirituality side as well, we have multiple lives that we've lived. Okay, so like we've got spirit guides that are here to help us in this life to serve our mission. We can call in. So we have a main guide. We have a main guide that's with us the whole entire time. Then we have other guides that come in to support us at certain times of our life. And we can call in guides to help us through certain circumstances. If you are having a challenge, with technology, I call in people all the time to help me with this. I'm like, okay, I need a guide dropping down in the purity. So one thing, in purity of love, light, and truth. So you've got to be using that type of verbiage or some way, shape, or form, 100% in light or whatever it feels right for your soul, because we're dealing with a lot of distortion right now. So if you just call in somebody and don't specify the calibration of energy that you want in your field, someone could drop in that is not purely of love, light, and truth. Just saying out loud. So I call in a guide to help with technology. I call in the guide sometime to help with courage, right? To step in. I call in angels to help support certain things. I have a protection team and a clearing team, and you guys all do too. But at the beginning phases, if I can get you to just honor the fact that you have guides with you, that's a big step, right? Because most of us think we're solo. Some of you have grown up in the religious, like in a religious environment. So you're used to God, you're used to the Holy Spirit mechanism. They've talked about angels in the Bible, and you know of that, but literally we have a team. We have a team. Right? And if we have certain gifts, like let's say mediumship, you have a mediumship team, a team specifically meant to serve you when you do mediumship. Just like when I channel, I've got a team helping me, one protecting the channelways, one helping the communication drop in properly, one holding open the gate. Like there's all these people, all these energies in alignment with you. Because I need to tell you a couple things. If you are incarnated on earth right now and you are a light warrior, which if you are listening to this podcast, you are a light warrior, whether you ever own that term or not, like it doesn't mean that you have to be doing Reiki as a job. Your light mission, your ripple effect in the world is what is needed at this time. So you are a light warrior in some way, shape, or form. Therefore, your mission is big on earth. And whether you want to own that or take that responsibility, some of you don't. And I understand that. But I really want you to feel into this, to go, your fucking light is needed now. And sometimes we forget all of this, but we have teams of guides helping us move through this, because if you are in my field, you are meant to be activated right now, stepping in, whether it's at the beginning phases, like you don't need to know your whole mission, but you're at the beginning phases, owning this level right here, whatever it is. Creativity, the way you show up at the nursing home, the way you sing, and the calibration of your voice in the world to shift energy. You are a light warrior, a light worker, a star seed potentially. You are a light beam in this world right now. And you have a collective of people on the other side, not on earth, but in an energetic experience with you, helping you stay in alignment with your mission. Right? And some of you guys have guides that have been fucking around for a long time. I get this visual all the time. Like our guides are around playing poker, right, together, and they're like, yo, do we have time for another hand? And your main guide's like, dude, she's still fucking sleeping at the wheel. You got a couple hands for sure. Right? Or when they're all standing around going, oh my God, is she going to learn it this time? Is she going to learn it this time? And then it's like, no, she did the same thing again. Right? And it's almost like this game. And I say it this way to get you to understand that it doesn't have to be heavy. And even if we have a big ass mission to change lives and to move through and to shift narratives, and some of the clients I work with are disruptors of systems, like I'm talking hierarchy, like medicinal systems that they're meant to go in and blow shit up, in the United States. Now, not in a way of like with missiles, okay? I'm not talking about it in a way of like terrorism. For anyone listening to this podcast, this is not about terrorism, okay? But in a way of the infrastructures that have been keeping us small, that are governed by a certain collective of energy, they are meant to go in and blow those up. Meaning that we need to remember the purity of ourselves, the purity of our soul, that our bodies, these physical forms that we live within, can heal themselves if we get out of our own way and let the body heal itself and fuel it with what it needs and listen to it and give it what it's calling out for. It can heal itself from any ailment, anything. But we have been conditioned to think that we need to rely on a medical system to do that we need drugs pumped into us, that we need X, Y, and Z, that we need that chiropractor to do this and all that. And although those people in our world maybe mean well and maybe work short term, our bodies can be sustained by our own healing process within it. And that alone is going to blow some of your minds, because it can. And I watch it happen every single day, and some of the work that I read and some of the work that my clients do and some of the work that, I'm inclined, like Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work in the world, just amazing, amazing availability we have. Right? So the next thing of understanding and awareness is that when we start opening up, anything is possible. It's us as humans that have created the infrastructure keeping us contained, creating the infrastructure saying, no, you can't do that. I've been having this real talk conversation with myself over the last week as to possibilities, because I keep seeing some stuff as my human and as what I've been directed and shown in the past. And then I keep seeing these visualizations of like what is actually possible. And I'm right now looking at both infrastructures, literally holding them both in my hand, going, what do you really desire in your life? And I obviously desire the mechanism over here with the unlimited possibilities, but it's going to take me releasing this shit show that I've been living within in conformity to get here and to trust this. And I've talked about trust so much in this podcast and the truth and trust and leaning in and surrendering, but it is a pivotal thing. Like we need to have it in order to shift. So when we start expanding and awakening, we know we have a soul mission. We know we've got teams of people here to help serve us. We know that anything is possible, right? And moving through that. Now, our energy fields need to start being like watched over, let's say. Consciously, we need to be protecting our energy as we accelerate. Because like I've already mentioned a few times today, like the entities are running rampant right now in the world, trying to keep us diminished. And as you continue to awaken, shit shows start to happen, which was last week's podcast that I recorded about the spirituality shit show. And I want to lean in today to protection of energy. Because when we are purified, when we continue to keep our energy fields clear, they need to be protected to hold that energetic space. Because now we're working within a whole new level of energy. We can't hang out with people any longer that are not in the same vibration that we are or on the same pathway. We start to see things differently in connection with how we used to do life. We have challenges being in rooms with family members that like are fucking sucking us dry, you know, where we may have been tolerant in the past. We don't even have tolerance anymore to be able to lean into that and step into that. And all these different dynamics of things when we work with clients, when we're in certain arenas, when we go to concerts, when we're with people, we've got to protect our energy. And when we awaken, we don't realize this, because when we've been in the dark this whole time or diminished or outside of our light, we don't see this as a thing. It's just never been in our awareness before. But when you open up, you've got to pay attention. You know, I was like, what did I teach? A masterclass last week called Exposed. It was a 3-day masterclass literally about spiritual truth and the truth we're moving through in the vibration of the world. And this was a magnetic availability. Like it was just really cool. But why I speak to you about this now is the first day I leaned into awareness and about us being aware. And as we move through this awakening and as we shift ourselves into this next level and as we move it through our vibration, we need to be aware. What are we feeling? You know, what is our new truth? Okay, because last week's truth was relevant at the time for you because it was your truth then, but you went through a whole shit show of activations and upgrades over the weekend. Now your truth today is different than last week, and that is actually a possibility. What is your truth today? Okay, start listening to yourself, your intuition, and taking action there and being aware of the people you hang out with and the things you serve your body and how you're showing up in the world. You know, I have a girlfriend visiting me from Canada. She's not from Costa Rica. She's from Canada. And I said to her today, she goes, is it safe for me to walk on the street? And I said, yeah, it is. It is safe for you to walk on the street if you are aware, if you pay attention. Like when I go to the bank here in Costa Rica to take out cash, even if I have my earphones on, which looks like a distraction for a lot of people, maybe they don't think I'm paying attention, but I'm paying attention. I'm in awareness everywhere. I'm watching, where are the guys? Who's paying attention to me? What are they looking at? Because if I have a wad of cash in my wallet, I'm on it. Is somebody following me when I walk home? Am I seeing people kind of pay attention to this dynamic? And if you are aware, just like in everything in life, you can see things differently. When you are aware of your body, when you are aware of your intuition and listening, when you are aware in nature and letting Mother Earth serve your soul, it's awareness, it's being present, it's being right here with me right now, right? And you might be listening to this podcast while you're multitasking. Amazing. This isn't a podcast where you need to sit down and write notes, although some of you probably get downloads while you're listening to these podcasts because of the fact that I'm an activator, which means that as you listen, the more inclined you are going to be to make shifts in your life, the more you're going to want to open up, the more you're going to want to step in, because that's my mission on earth. I am an activator in all ways, shapes, or form. So if you get to come into my world and live with me for a certain amount of time, or I'm at your place for the weekend, or we get to hang out at a cottage for the weekend, You are in my purity of light, and not mine, my soul's purity and its connection to source. So that is my mission on earth. One of the many that I have a few that are dominant, and this is one of them. And it doesn't mean that it's easy. Like, when I say some of this stuff to you and you go out and start to implement, it doesn't mean that it's fucking easy. And I've watched this. When I've activated people, they've had shit shows show up in their fields. And I speak to this from a way of purity of light. And it doesn't mean anything for them other than the fact that maybe they were resisting it and it started to amplify. And if we resist, we know the term, if you resist, it will persist, right? So we are being called now. You are having a ping in your field right now to step in. You're having a ping to your next level of awakening. You are having a ping to this new level of awakening, right? And we're being called forward. So what I say to you now and in this understanding is that it's time to take action. So we have these key dynamics that I just want you to know. You're going to start to feel energy now. You're going to start to see it in people. You're going to know when someone's lying to you. You're going to know when something's shady. You're going to know when it doesn't feel right. Right? You're going to know, like, wow, I think my boss is actually skimming people's paychecks. And it's going to drop in from random weird places. And you're going to be like, how the fuck did I know that? Because you know truth. Because when you open up and you start to awaken, you know truth and you see truth. So nobody has to convince you of anything any longer, because you are either all in or all out. And you don't even, I want to encourage you guys to start trusting this more. If it's a no at the beginning, it's a no. Trust the no and move through it. Stop thinking about it so much. Stop thinking about what it might mean. Stop thinking about what you're going to miss out on, and trust the no dropping in. I'm leading a mastermind right now in connection with the Illicit program that I have going on, which is the Light Warrior program that moved through my field of importance. And literally, we were on a mastermind call, and one of the women that's in this mastermind was like, I knew last year that I wasn't supposed to take this, but I had FOMO thinking I'd miss out on something. And now they're in the middle of a potential lawsuit because of this whole dynamic of this program. And she knew back then. She knew, but she didn't trust herself. When the answer showed up as no, she went into scarcity. Scarcity, guilt, grief, unworthiness, self-sabotage, all of those emotions, jealousy, inadequacy, feeling unloved, are all shadow. They are illusions. They are illusions. I'm going to do a podcast episode called The 12 Veils of Illusion soon. And I want to talk to you guys about this process I went through for 1 year of my spiritual awakening that shifted my whole life. And I taught this program last year to the collective of energy. It will be coming back in May of this year. And it's a 13-week program, literally abolishing 12 veils of illusion in your field. And we move through, oh my God, it's such a beautiful thing, but we move through these emotions and these dynamics to help this shift for you. So I want you to know, as you continue to awaken, the parts of you that you've been hiding are going to come out to play. And they're going to be called forward for you to own. And even if people in your life don't get it, you know, like you heard my podcast and maybe you didn't, about this not needing permission, but some of them will never get it. And some of them won't understand why you get a tattoo on your neck. And some of them won't understand why you show up on your social media in lace underwear. And some of them will never get it. And they don't need to. And that's the thing that starts to happen when you awaken, is a clear pathway for your light starts to show up. And those that are not able to hold that light, or not meant to hold that light right now with you, will start to dissipate around you, or they will push back on you. And your job is to stand in your power and own it. So it's an interesting dynamic as we move through. A couple other key tools I just want to say out loud that are dropping in right now for me to serve you with is some tools that will help you move through this quicker and get you to understand what truth really is for you. Because at first we question the truth. We do. Because our pragmatic mind wants to question fucking everything. And some of you guys are still fucking questioning shit right now. But a couple of the tools that will help you is breathing. Letting your body use the tool of breath to move the energy through. Dropping into your heart, which I've talked about in another podcast, and really aligning in your heart center. Meditating allowing your mind to quiet, whether it's a guided meditation or just taking breaths and being in your body and allowing your body to serve itself. Movement, which we've talked about a lot too. What is your body craving now to move energy through it? The last one I want to serve you guys with is finding people like you that are on the same page, moving through the same dynamics, moving through life in the same vibration. And they are out there. But the thing you need to do is call them in and be open to them in different shapes and sizes and ethnicities and all of the dynamics from different parts of the world, from different upbringings. And each of them will bring their own pulse. And even if you don't agree in certain energetic alignment, there'll be a collective or a rhythm of energy that will move through, that will bring you together in this energetic field. I know what it's like to awaken. Although I've been awake my whole life mostly, the shadow dynamic that I played within for 28 years of my life, pretty much, the entity that I had in my field as I moved through all that energy, the rebellion when it wasn't honored as a dark feminine energy of mine, but more of a dismantling and more of a destruction rebellion pulsed through my field, especially in my mid-teens to early 20s. And I did a lot of amazing rebellion destruction, by the way. Oh my God. And am I proud of it? Fuck no. But I honor her today for what she moved through and who she was and how she did life and the things I've learned through her experience, for sure. But I want you to remember this one thing as well as all the other things I just dropped in here. We need to understand that we are in a game. We are on earth in an experience here on earth to learn things, to move through something, to imprint something, to bring something to the earth, to shift something. Each of us is different, right? So all these words pertain to different people. We are here for a reason. And if you can see life as a game, meaning remove some of the distorted emotions in your field, remove all the heaviness, remove the weight of holding your mission on your shoulders, you can get through this easily. And you can get through it quicker than you ever can imagine. But it's us as the human that allows us to be challenged, that allows us to have all the chaos, that allows us to go through all the drama, right? That allows us to play small and to live in scarcity and lack and unloved and all these fucked up emotions that we go through as humans. You do not need to hold this any longer. You are at a pivotal point in your expansion that you can let it go. Now, we always will go through awarenesses and next levels and understandings of this. It's a journey. We will learn the whole way through, all the way. That's what it's meant for. But it means that we can remove all the shittiness from it and actually see it with the light. So even when we're going through the shadow, and even when we're going through the shit storms, and even when we're going through all the shit we go through, or the lack of things and that stuff moving through, we remember and drop into the purity of our mission on earth and know that the game we're playing doesn't have to be hard unless we make it hard. Now, I want to prompt you, if you guys have any questions about spiritual awakening, if you have any questions about this, I'm going to urge you to send me a DM. I'm going to urge you to write it in the comments here. I'm going to urge you to move it through. You do not need to stick within this. Now, I don't do a lot of work with people just awakening. I have a lot of beautiful souls in my life that's their job, is to help people awaken and move them through this process. But I can serve you with questions and I can give you answers and I can help you align with who you need to speak to if it's more depthful, that like transitions that you need. But I just want you to remember that you are not alone. You do not have to do this alone. In human form or in spiritual form, you have people with you. And we're all moving through this together. So I wanted to create this today just to hold space for this conversation. And like I urge you guys in all the podcasts that I do, this movement is needed in the earth right now. This energy is needed to get out. So if you feel it, take a snapshot of this podcast, tag me on Instagram, help share the word, allow me to serve more people. Because when we're all combining our light together and moving through, we're all combining our light together and moving through. The faster we can do it, the easier the tools are accessible to us, and the easier we can make things move. So share it with a friend, review it on here, give us 5 stars, allow me to get exposure to help this move through. And I will see you guys all in the next podcast. Have a great day.